Hi, you're watching SightsIn Plus, and this is Romesh Shivastu. Please do subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates, and conversation with the top-notch CHROs, thought leaders, and business heads. Today, we are going to explore that employee engagement in 2024. What are going to be the key factors that will influence the employee engagement in 2024? And we have also seen a couple of data, and according to this data, 85% of employees are disengaged right now. If we trust on Gallup, so 85% employees are disengaged. Another report we have seen, according to LinkedIn, 88% employees they're looking for the job change in 2024, and that is in India. So it means they're not engaged with the organization. What are the reasons why the employees are not engaged? And every year, why this number is getting higher when we talk about the disengagement of the employees? We will try to dive deep, and we have two senior HR leaders. Let me introduce Dr. Sanjeev Kumarr Dixit. He is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Jindal Steel Iron and Steel. And Ms. Usha Chirayil, she is a Senior Director, Human Resources at Reflections Info System. Dr. Sanjeev, if I come to you first. So, as I shared with you that according to Gallup, 85% employees are disengaged right now. And according to LinkedIn, 88% employees they are looking for a job change. And this number is getting higher and higher every year. What do you see? What are the reasons why a huge, you can say, the disengagement among the employees and organizations?
So, thanks, Romesh, for having me, and pleasure to meet Usha as well. Now, what you mentioned, the data is all about the symptoms. So, 85% of people are not engaged, they are looking outside, and both are interrelated for sure. But I will attribute this entire outcome or symptom to the root cause. And I think we need to spend some time in reflecting on those root cause. What has happened, what was happening pre-COVID and what happened after COVID is primarily the entire context around traditional way of employee engagement to more, I will say, real-time and topical way of employee engagement. So earlier it was more of a fun and dance and cake cutting and a typical way of creating some kind of a fun and we can say recreation in the workplace. While the organization kept having a very rigorous and toxic approach towards achieving results. And I call it mostly the top line driven and bottom line driven organization. Hardly there was focus on the middle line. And that's what my entire, you can say, diagnosis. What is middle line? The middle line of any organization is the way the senior leadership role model the core values of the organization, how they are walking the talk, how they are ensuring that in any kind of a environment, there is a very, I will say, conducive and inspirational work environment where people feel coming every day to work and deliver better than before. Now, that's where the entire shift has never happened. And that has got a reflection on the kind of culture which we created. So we created a very either strategy-oriented and very result-oriented culture or very profit-driven or growth-oriented culture. And all the time, these are the buzzwords you will hear in any of the boardrooms. But when it comes to, okay, what we deliver these top line and bottom line on a sustainable manner is that ecosystem which is created by the senior management and the leadership team. And like we've been in the last entire century, been cutting trees and emitting, you can say, carbon dioxide in the environment, resulted into today we are saying, oh, there is a global warming. I will say similarly, over all the practices around growth and profit and top line, we created culture warming. And this, what you're seeing is the outcome of that culture warming.
Excellent. Usha ma'am, how do you see that? What are the key factors which are going to drive the employee engagement in 2024? And before this, if you want to add something on this data part, that how do you see that? What are the root cause of this disengagement, which is increasing every year?
Perhaps those numbers kind of seem alarming, but I always believe that the basics of motivation or employee engagement continue to be the same. We've always had great places to work, which believed in building a culture. And I always remember a book by Dan Pink, which used to talk about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So, organizations which try to create a culture where there is autonomy for people to take decisions, where they know they're going to grow and learn and achieve mastery about whatever subject they're picking up. And if it's largely driven by one big purpose, much above individuals, then there's bound to be a cohesive culture and people are engaged at work far beyond the perks of salary or the next promotion. They are engaged long term and they see a vision for a career with them. So I guess what has changed recently is the context, COVID and the work from home and a certain amount of alienation of while working remotely might have contributed to people feeling a little more disengaged than in the past. We notice there are pockets of people, large organizations calling people back to work from office. Sometimes they are not so transparent in the ways of communication or in the way they deal with requests to continue working from home. That might have created a huge pressure in some quarters. In others, the fact that they've worked 2 years remotely, they're new generation people who've not fully bought into the culture of an organization. That could be another reason why people are being perceived as less engaged than in the past. So the whole post-COVID era, there's a need to relook at the ways people engage their employees. I know Dr. Sanjeev mentioned that in the past, some companies looked at engagement just as events or some amount of extra frills. But long-term engagement does need to look at the way people are engaged with the work, the way they see their purpose at work, and longer-term careers. I think some organizations have got it right, but the larger chunk, which is a wave of disengagement that we see right now, could be grappling with issues like Dr. Sanjeev also mentioned, of not seeing enough role models at work, etc. So some of those are symptoms of what is not being addressed, which is the basics of trying to make sure that there's a good work culture that people can look forward.
Usha, you have highlighted also the work from home that has also, it has triggered somehow the disengagement among the employees. How do you see, Dr. Sanjeev, that what are going to be the key factors that will drive the engagement part in this year, 2024?
The way things are now very fast changing in terms of the one from a employee standpoint, the priorities have changed post-COVID, as mentioned by Usha as well. And we all know, and I think that's the reflection where we see any tinkering to that element immediately have an impact on the engagement or disengagement. So when I say priorities have changed, the balance between what I want to achieve through work and what I want to achieve other than work is now getting more prominence in the eyes of especially the younger generation. And I think one of the symptom or outcome is also because the workforce is becoming younger. And if you see the India context, the less than say 40 years or between 25 to 35 is your almost like 60-65% population. So with a younger population coming at the workforce, their need from an engagement perspective is more than the traditional way of what you call engagement standpoints. So they would be looking at more value addition. They would be looking at what kind of, you can say, CSR or environment-oriented work being done by the organization and whether they see their contribution in those areas. What kind of work is being done in the field of, I will say, community service. Now, so younger population is attaching a lot of value to things which were not the priority for the organization, but were the priority for the employees. Number one. Number two, with the advent of more, I will say, information systems, chat GPT, bots, and AI coming into the workforce, I think the entire element about, as I said, manual way of engagement to more analytical way of engagement has also shifted. So I think that today the organization is looking at what is the effectiveness level of all the engagement activities being done with the help of the automation and the analytics. Now, these are the things which is continue to going to influence the way organization will create strategy around the engagement per se of the overall workforce across, as I said, age group and demographics.
Yeah, younger workforce and the work from home. And one more factor is there, what I feel that post-COVID, the people have seen some uncertain time and they don't want to also dependent on one, earning source. So they started some side hustles, some other work, and they are engaged in 2, 3 activities maybe. So this may be also one of the, and if one thing is working fine, so okay, let's start doing that kind of business of that freelancing. So that will be also one of the reason. We did also a little survey on LinkedIn that what are the key factors that may influence the employee engagement. So we put there 4 points basically. One is the purpose-driven work culture. Second, that is the growth opportunities. And the third, that is the flexible arrangement. And fourth, we put transparent communication. So what the maximum vote we got on the LinkedIn, that is for the purpose-driven work culture. This is one topmost desire of as an employee. And second, that is the growth opportunities. We got around 36% vote. For purpose-driven, it is a 42%. And for growth opportunities, this is a 36%. Flexible arrangement, that is a 13%. And transparent communication, we got around, we got 10% vote for this. So purpose-driven work, that is on the topmost priority for every employee. Usha ma'am, how do you see that, how we can create a purpose-driven work culture? First, what is your opening comment on the survey and how we can go with this purpose-driven work culture?
I'm glad that the survey also confirms what the Dan Pink reference I made earlier about purpose being one of the 3 main pillars of engagement. Indeed, companies that can articulate their purpose clearly may help the employee also understand where all that effort is going towards. The well-known story of, am I creating a wall or am I building a temple? That definitely makes a difference to the way I engage with the task or the passion I bring to job. So in some companies, the articulation remains on posters. In others, you see a culture of leaders walking the talk and living out through examples. So when people see the same tenets that are on posters actually being lived out in real life experience, that's when purpose makes a difference. Also, if the objective of the company, is it just profit or is it actually leading to some result that is tangible? I remember an example long ago about a healthcare device making firm that had actual live patients showing to the employees the effects of where their product goes. And nothing can be more touching than knowing that you're actually contributing to something that has such a tangible impact on people's lives. Similarly, in different sectors, be it software, be it automotive, as long as an employee can see where all those long hours of sweat and toil is leading to, then almost like an athlete who's training for many, many hours, but knows all that effort leads to something, makes all the more the importance of articulating and living out purpose in day-to-day lives.
So, Dr. Sanjeev, yeah, of course, the purpose-driven culture, but to align the individual purpose and with the organization purpose, that is not as easy. So I was going through a couple of studies and some of the companies, what they do, they start the interview process with this, some questionnaire on the purpose. They try to find out that what is your purpose. And then after finding out, they help to candidate as well that what is your purpose, how to find out the purpose. Then they align and they start the another interview process. How do you see that? What the right process? How the organizations can go because this is the high number, 85%. So it means something is missing out. So how they can create a purpose-driven culture in organization?
I think I touched upon in the opening aspect of this discussion about the entire culture warming. And I will refer to my own PhD thesis, which I did, was primarily linking the role modeling of the values by the senior leader on the employee engagement outcomes, further on the business performance. So I will not be quoting any other study, but my own research on the real organizations, where whenever the employees saw that their senior leadership, which basically constitute the culture. So culture is nothing but the behavior demonstrated by the most influential people in the organization sets the culture. In the family, it is parents. In an organization, it is CEOs and CXOs and the board, primarily. And when the CEO change, culture change. So it's primarily the personality of the CEOs and the CXOs, which ultimately, what you call, define the real culture, while we can keep having a lot of theoretical definition around it. So basis my research, it was very clearly came out, and from a live organizations, I'm not quoting the names, but those are the live organization in the pharma sector and consumer sector. And it was consistent, very, very consistent for a very large employee base, that whenever the employees see their senior management behaving in line with the mission, vision, and core values of the organization in a very, very consistent manner, that resulted into they feeling, staying more in the organization, advocating other team members to also stay put in the organization. So the entire retention improves. Number two was they become a brand ambassador of the organization. So they start advocating the organization across various forums, whether social media or any other, you can say, informal forums. And number three, they felt very, you can say, driven to give a higher discretionary performance. So because their entire engagement improved, their discretionary performance also improved. And what was the element which impacted this? Primarily the purpose-driven, which we were mentioning, and I basically call it middle line-driven organization or the leadership. Because top line and bottom line, we are very clear. Top line is all about revenues and bottom line is all about profit. But middle line, nobody talks about, and that is a term which I coined in my book, Plan C, which is again talk about the creating a Plan C around how we create a sustainable organization. So what you're currently seeing in all the data in terms of purpose-driven culture becoming number one, it is the, again, as I said, the outcome of the entire need which is being felt by the employee across the, I will say, age group and strata, and more so in the younger millennials, is that how they see every day their leadership walking the talk, talking more from a context of not just profit and the revenue, but larger purpose of serving the community, what you call improving the environment, creating some kind of a sustainable processes and products, which in a longer run, not only will be used by them, but their own next generations. Because the millennials are more aware, they are more socially aware, they are more environmentally aware, they are more culturally aware. And that is the reason why their entire response to anything which is not going in line with that is very, very, you can say, very, very stark and very, very straightforward. So that's my 2 cents on this, that I think high time the board and the senior management should shift from just making those strategies for higher growth and higher profit and get into the brass tack of what kind of environment and ecosystem, which is called culture, we will create. What is my culture vision? What is my culture mission? What are my culture KPIs in the next 3 to 5 years, which will then enable all my strategy and all my, you can say, processes and plan to get really giving sustainable dividend.
Right. Next, as also we discussed in the survey part, and that is also a reality that growth opportunities, without providing the right growth opportunities, you cannot engage your employees in organization. And right now we see that, especially if we look at the IT companies, so almost the entire workforce that trying to upskill with this generative AI. And if we talk about other non-IT industry and service industry, other industries, So I trust that most of the job that would be influenced by the generative AI somehow. So that would be influenced by the generative AI somehow. So that upskilling is naturally that is very important. Other than this, how do you see that how the organizations can provide the growth opportunities, how they can work on this so that they keep engaged their employees on this ground?
Growth is one of the key parameters that especially the younger generation or the ambitious people would look out for in organizations. So those who have plateaued or are in mid-career and are satisfied with the growth they've achieved in the past would probably opt for a larger organization where there's a steady pace of growth. I've seen many of the younger generation do not want to wait that long to achieve a higher position or a higher position of responsibility, which is why they consciously seek out startups or smaller organizations where they've seen a senior or a peer achieve, much more dramatic increases in growth. Well, sometimes that could be a myopic vision because some of the startups don't have the base to last for such a long time, and they lose out on some of the opportunities that are available in a large organization through rotations. However, that said, people are impatient. They would rather join a growing organization where they know that each successive year they get to expand what they're responsible for and they can learn that much more. When companies have plateaued in their growth or are in a steady or on a decline, they themselves know that there are many people blocking their promotion opportunities because they are in steady state organizations. So that's why growth is definitely linked to the topic of engagement, because it's also closely linked with the aspect of learning and getting mastery over whatever they are seeking.
And Dr. Sanjeev, how do you see that? Sometimes don't you think the conversations, frequent conversations and meaningful conversations, and you can say also the career conversations, that are also very important. What is your take on this?
So, as I said, there's a significant shift which is happening with the millennials now in the game. There is nothing called I'm coming here for 2 years, I'm coming here for 5 years, and this question has become absolutely irrelevant and out of the window. Oh, how you see yourself in the next 3 years and 5 years? Reason being, the entire emphasis today, and I've been interacting across, you can say, genre through various other forums beside my own organization. The entire top line thought is they are there for value addition. They are coming every day to learn, innovate, explore something new. They want newness in their experience. And if it is same, traditional approach of, okay, after 5 years you will be here, and after 10 years you will be there, nobody is interested. Nobody's interested. So rather than being defensive about attrition, the focus has to be, and especially for the HR fraternity and the entire business fraternity, should be how I make every day for them much more meaningful and much more value adding, whether it in terms of variety of exposure, learning, giving them that kind of a push to take a risk and experiment and try new things with a tolerance of mistake. And that will enable them to extend their stay. So after 6 months, they will say, okay, I want to stay 6 months more. But their horizon is not beyond 3 to 6 months. Let me be very, very honest. And I think days will not be far. And that's where the gig workers and all these things are, coming up as one of our interim managers, kind of a concepts are coming in, where people are taking up projects of 6 months and then moving into other organization. So they are kind of a turnaround specialist in a very, very time-bound manner. One more thing I want to add on is with the, advent of, and you can say inclusion of generative AI and chat GPTs and all, one of the core focus should be how we train and upskill our workforce to start using chat GPTs and generative AI in their day-to-day work to become more productive, more efficient, rather than spending more time on very, very, as I said, mundane work. I think with the help of chat GPT, they can reduce the time of efficiency and productive outcome in the form of whether they're creating a process, whether they're creating a system, they're creating a framework, they're creating a strategy. ChatGPT can do for them with a lot of options once you provide the data. So that they spend the time earlier spending 1 hour on making some kind of a plan to reducing it to say 15 minutes, and that 45 minutes becoming then utilized in the another what you call set of more effective you can say either a new innovation or new ideas. I think that is the opportunity which we need to kind of start leveraging. And I think one of the key priority we should have for this year and coming years is how we make the entire workforce ChatGPT and generative AI enabled.
Yeah, absolutely. For most of the jobs, it will complement. It will help people to to improve the efficiency. Definitely. Usha, what is your take on this? That how the career conversations are important?
Definitely, career conversations are important, but like Dr. Sanjeev mentioned, the time frame, which was earlier, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, has definitely reduced. But along with upskilling, it is good that they have a career vision of which area they're going to be specializing in, so that they don't take a whole random set of certifications, but something that is related. And this is also closely linked to finding the right mentors in the organization who guide them on what are the upcoming trends especially in technology, which helps them figure out which are the specific courses they would like to take and specialize in, so that with the advent of newer and newer technologies, they don't go after 20 different certifications, but are more or less aligned about a particular path of growth. Are they growing either in the project management track or as an architect or as an enterprise architect, or in some specific path that is both aligned to the basic skills and orientation they have, as well as what will be useful for the organization. So that's when the best of magic happens, when your aspirations map with where the organization is headed. And it's a win-win for both, because you're upskilling yourself, so you know you are valuable in the market. And at the same time, you're specializing in an area that the organization is also very keen to invest in, because the organization can then grow using the upskilling efforts that have been planned in advance.
Yeah, Dr. Sanjeev, we have only a couple of minutes right now. So quickly, if you want to share some employee engagement trends for 2024.
I think we have touched upon, not in a very specific way, but I think one of the important piece would be that how we leverage all the, you can say, automation and the ChatGPT and generative AI to assess the effectiveness of all our employee engagement interventions. Okay, ChatGPT will also enable us to customize the employee engagement efforts being done for a kind of organization we are, or a kind of, you can say, journey we are into. So I think the trend would be leveraging all these technologies for creating very customized, very fast, very sharp, very specific employee engagement interventions for the organization. And to the point that now the millennials will start doing more reverse mentoring than mentoring, because they don't need mentoring and coaching anymore. They are more aware, they are more seasoned, they are more, you can say, mature. I think people like us would be needing the tools and techniques basis which not only they will be effective, how we will be effective, and then creating a very, as I said, very energized, very unified, very, as I said, middle line driven team and organization.
Right. And Usha, any of your final comments?
Yeah, in 2024, I think it's time to use those real-time engagement surveys that point out what is relevant for a particular organization. Since we have so many trends, be it community building or upskilling or building an inclusive culture or focusing on social leadership, it would depend on what is the most relevant task of a particular organization to take steps towards tackling that aspect which is not going so well, so that the engagement efforts are around top couple of priorities that are relevant for that organization to help those employees who are giving feedback through multiple surveys tackle what affects them the most in a particular context.
I think we have been covered all the important points that may influence the employee engagement in this year. Apart from this, maybe we can also, we don't have time right now, but we can cover also the empathy, maybe recognition, the appreciation. These are the things that will also always have been the key factors. So that will continue. And thank you so much, Dr. Sanjeev and Usha, for joining the conversation and sharing your wonderful thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.